This first case articles on the go feature entitled Canceled Flight versus Canceled Case was written by Lindsay Joyce, MSN, RN, CNOR. I recently finished a fabulous 2-week trek through Scotland and Ireland with a good friend of mine. We had an amazing trip. When it was time to go back home, we headed to the airport, hugged goodbye, and then went to our separate terminals to catch our flights back to the States. My friend made it back to the US that day, but I did not. But in all of the chaos I experienced with a delayed flight, I gained a new perspective as well. So today, I want to walk you through my experience in Dublin Airport and show you how similar a canceled case and a canceled flight can really be. Dublin Airport, Tuesday, August 6th, 2024, 1:15 p.m. I had just finished a nice 15-day jaunt through Scotland and Ireland. It was a fabulous trip, but by the end of it, I was ready to get home. I missed my bed, I missed my face soap, I missed my parents. My flight to Boston was scheduled at 1:15 p.m., but we were currently delayed because there was still a plane at the gate. The delayed flight had boarded, but then had some mechanical issues. Those passengers had to sit on that plane for hours while things were getting repaired. Glad that's not me, I thought. As I watched the plane finally push back, I was notified that the gate for my flight had changed. I headed to the new gate, only to see that we were now delayed until 5:30 p.m. Our plane was also having mechanical issues and was being serviced. Annoyed, I decided to walk back to the lounge since there was no point in waiting at the gate for hours. Dublin Airport, 2:30 p.m., Airport Lounge. I grabbed some lunch and found a spot to watch the airplane's landing while I ate. I thought, why not get a glass of champagne and start reading my book? No sooner had I taken a sip and started the first chapter when I heard over the paging system, "Attention all passengers on Delta Flight 155, 115 to Boston. Your flight has been canceled. Please report to Gate 406 immediately." I jumped out of my seat and saw a few other people do the same. This couldn't be happening to me. I have great travel luck. There had to be a mistake. Dublin Airport, 3 p.m., Delta check-in counter. It was no mistake. Our flight to Boston had indeed been canceled. We gathered at the gate and the range of emotions was noticeable, mostly anger and a lot of annoyance. Everyone, myself included, was frantically on their phone looking up any possible flight back to the US that day, or texting loved ones telling them what was going on. I should have been annoyed. I should have been upset. I probably should have been crying, to be honest, but surprisingly, I wasn't feeling any of those emotions. I was pretty calm. I got in line, got my hotel voucher as well as other paperwork, caught the hotel bus, checked into my room that was being comped for the night, and then FaceTimed my parents. We had been automatically rebooked for a flight to Boston the next day, but now I also had to rebook my flight from Boston to St. Louis and rebook a hotel for Boston. On top of all that, now I was forced to do something I hadn't done in 6 years. I had to text my boss and tell him I was calling in for Thursday. And it was only Tuesday. Honestly, having to call in was the thing about this whole situation that bothered me most. But I took care of what needed to be done and then headed to the gym to walk for 90 minutes. What else did I have to do? Dublin Airport, 8:30 p.m., Carlton Hotel. I was sitting in my hotel room eating a not-so-great free meal and watching the Paris Olympics when I got a notification on my phone from Delta. My rebooked flight had been changed to 9 a.m. Oh, good. I hoped that there was a chance I would be able to make my flight from Boston to St. Louis after all. Then I checked my app, and it said my flight was at 2 p.m. Why was I getting two conflicting pieces of information from the same company? I got on the messaging app with the airline and was told that the flight was at 9 a.m. But something didn't seem right, so I called the airline helpline. They too said the flight was at 9 a.m., but I was delayed until 2 p.m. This made no sense to me. I had a friend in the U.S. look at all the flights to find out what he could see on his end. He saw my flight info as being 9 a.m. as well. This is where the emotions finally kicked in for me. My anxiety was sky high at this point. Was my flight at 9 a.m. or 2 p.m.? It would make a huge difference in what time I'd get to the airport in the morning. I paced around my room, texting with my friend. I finally FaceTimed my parents and told them what had occurred, and I had made a decision and needed to go to bed. Dublin Airport, Wednesday, August 7th, 2024, 6 a.m., Delta check-in counter. I made the decision to get up and go to the airport at 6 a.m. I didn't want to show up at 11 a.m. only to be told I'd missed my 9 a.m. flight. I would rather to wait at the airport for 8 hours than miss a flight. But international flights are on very strict timelines. Generally, you cannot check bags or clear security until a certain number of hours before your flight, but I had nothing else to lose, so I went to the counter and explained my situation. The agent was very understanding and saw the confusion. She got her supervisor to verify the correct time of the flight and then said she would be happy to check my bag so I could go through security. Maybe the luck of the Irish was on my side. I decided to wander around for a bit and get some exercise before I headed to security. I handed over my boarding pass and heard a harsh beep. It was flagging me for trying to go through too early. But again, a supervisor understood my dilemma and gave me permission to go through. My final hurdle would be to see if I could clear customs early. Third time's a charm. I went through without issue and headed back to the lounge where I had spent time the day before. My anxiety dropped significantly as I sat down and ate some breakfast. Having not eaten much the day before, I was ready for food, a mimosa, and more plane watching. Dublin Airport, 1 p.m., Upper Concourse American side. I needed to move. We were still on time for a 1:30 p.m. boarding, and I wanted to get the blood flowing before a 7.5-hour flight, but also to walk out some anxiety. There was still no plane at my assigned gate. I walked back and forth a few times, and then I saw something out of the window. I saw taxiing planes come to a halt as if to show respect to an incoming dignitary. I saw a 767 Boeing plane with Delta on the side. The colors on the tail confirmed that it was a Delta plane and it was being pulled toward our gate. The plane had been fixed. Not gonna lie, I teared up when I saw it. Dublin Airport, 2:30 p.m., Delta Flight 9897, Gate 402. I was the first one on the plane. It felt so good and so real to finally be settled in and ready to go back to the States. I sipped on my welcome drink and texted "Wheels Up" to my parents and a couple of friends. Boston Logan Airport, Wednesday, August 7, 2024, 4:49 p.m. Eastern. We landed in Boston without an issue, and the rest of the trip home was relatively uneventful and went according to plan. I bought seafood clam chowder in Boston, claimed my bag, and then walked to my hotel where I enjoyed my meal and being back on this side of the pond. I took a hot shower and was in bed by 8:30 p.m. Boston Logan Airport, Thursday, August 8, 2024, 7:55 a.m. I boarded the Southwest nonstop flight to St. Louis. St. Louis International Airport, 9:48 a.m. Central. I'm finally home. Once I got back to my house, I crashed on my couch and thanked God for getting me safely back home. So, why am I telling you all of this? Canceled cases make us happy. Canceled flights do not. But before all the notifications of potential flight changes came in while I was in the Dublin hotel on Wednesday evening, I started thinking about how my situation was a lot like a canceled case. Except this time, I was the one who was dealing with the ramifications of cancellation, just like our patients do when a case is canceled. Coffee break or major disruption? When a case is canceled, the staff continue to go on about their day without any interruptions or thought to how the patient may have been affected. However, what we see as a chance to grab coffee could be a major disruption in the life of the patient and maybe their families. Patients make plans and arrangements for their surgery, including transportation and time off work. A canceled case could disrupt all of these well-set plans, and patients are left scrambling, oftentimes struggling to come up with alternative arrangements. When my flight was canceled, I was forced to change my flights in the U.S. to accommodate my new flight plan and had to pay for an additional hotel stay. Those additional arrangements added up quickly and were very costly, not to mention stressful and frustrating. Patients and their families usually have to take time off from work for their procedures. When their case is canceled, they have to take an additional day off work that they might not have planned for. And if they work in healthcare, we all know you can't take a day off if you don't have 6 months advance notice. My canceled flight meant I had to call in for my scheduled shift that Thursday, and I had to find someone to take my call that night as well. Many of our patients check in for their surgery already filled with anxiety about their procedure, their prognosis, their finances, and possibly childcare or transportation arrangements while they recover. Any disruption in the scheduled plan is likely to increase that anxiety, causing our patients to feel like they have lost any perceived control in the situation. This canceled flight really showed me how little control I had over what was occurring. I couldn't fix the plane, and there were no flight alternatives, so what could I do? Communication. Canceled cases need to be communicated to everyone involved, especially the patients and their families. They need very specific information as to why things are canceled and what the next steps will be. The more they know, the better, particularly if they are the reason the case is canceled. Did they forget to stop taking a certain medication? Did they eat? Did they decide it was a good idea to use illegal drugs before their procedure? Education and explanation can go a long way in helping patients understand their role in their care and also to help ensure compliance. Canceled flights need explanation and communication too. When I don't know exactly when my rebooked flight was going to be or why I was seeing 2 different times posted for the flight, I needed communication from someone who could give me a definite answer. I didn't get it until the next day, and by then, it was too late. Oftentimes, we simply don't think about how a canceled case affects our patients, but there are many times where a cancellation is what's in the best interest of the patient and best for their safety. My canceled flight demonstrated that fact to me. It was in our best interest to let the plane get fixed, and the pilots and mechanics were looking out for our safety. Remember, the experience of a canceled flight offered me a unique perspective on the impact of canceled surgical cases. While we may view a cancellation as a minor inconvenience or even a welcome break, for our patients, it can be a significant disruption filled with anxiety and frustration. Just as I felt helpless and out of control when my travel plans were upended, our patients likely feel the same way when their carefully laid plans for surgery are suddenly altered. This parallel between flight cancellations and surgical case cancellations underscores the importance of clear communication and empathy. We must remember that our patients trust us with their safety and well-being, much like passengers trust their flight crew. Ensuring that we communicate thoroughly and compassionately with our patients when cancellations occur is essential to maintaining that trust. So, before we grab that coffee, let's make sure our patients are informed and reassured, understanding that their safety and care remain our top priorities. Lindsay Joyce. As always, thanks for listening to this episode of First Case Articles on the Go.